the upcoming session, Like a Pro, build a fully working app with no code in 50 minutes. And I will let you actually do the intro of yourself.
Yeah.
I haven't asked yet. Do you want questions as we go? Do you have natural breaks built in for questions?
So let's take a question as we go. And okay, let me share this. Yeah, I would love to keep this as engaging as possible, given that are, probably 6 o'clock for a lot of people. So let's keep this kind of active. And plus, I basically don't have any slides. So yeah, so should we start?
Absolutely, you're good to go.
Okay, perfect. So first of all,
I do see your slide deck, by the way. There you go.
Okay, perfect. So let's go straight to the point. What are the goals of this session? So when I decided to kind of submit some idea for this day, I just had to set in my mind that I need to do something 100 level. So I will just to make sure that everyone, who even those who are not really that deep into Azure SQL, can take something out of this session. So we'll start trying to understand how we can get started with Azure SQL, creating the server database and connecting to it. And then we will start to do some, I wouldn't say data modeling, but at least create a table, get some idea on why, for example, we put some column that maybe looks weird at the beginning. And then we'll move, and this probably will take 25 minutes, something around that. And then we'll go and use Power Up. Just want to be very honest here. Until last week, I never used Power Up before. So it has been a learning curve also for me, but that was exactly my point. I want to understand how to exactly do a session for 100 level for someone that is completely new. So I went and started to use Power Up like a newbie, and I just want to share with you what I learned and actually how it can really help you to create a solution without basically coding in a few minutes and make it work, save data, interact with Azure SQL, and use it on your school or on your office, or even on for private kind of projects. And then some resources where you can find more, because this is a 100 level session. So this is something that should help you to get a boost, to get a kickstarter. Then of course there will be much more to learn, but at least you will be on the right path. So the agenda is, let's create an Azure SQL database, connect to it. I saw some session before. You probably already saw how to use Management Studio. I will be then using something else. Then we will create and query the objects we created on Azure SQL, and then we'll create the Power Up. So let's go. That's it. That's all the slide I have. So I will immediately go to the browser, and I'm using the in private version because I already have a lot of logins on all the internal website we have, so I don't want to mess up with my current configuration. Plus, there's a lot of stuff you don't really need to kind of know. So let's just go with this, which is like I'm completely new to anything. So I will go to portal.azure.com. And right now I'm just using my Microsoft login, just because it will be easier for me to kind of use the resources I have. And so you need to log in. And of course, you may not have an Azure subscription yet. So in the meantime, it gets created if you go to azure.com. But it is another thing I heard this morning while listening to some of the session. You know that you can start Azure for free. So you can just create a new subscription, have 12 months of some free services. And in addition to that, you have $200 credit to do basically what I'm going to show you, and even more, because it's not that we are going to use $200 for just creating a simple application. So this is my portal. This is what I use for work. So what I want to do right now, but this is exactly what you would do normally. You just don't see any existing resources. You just probably go here, type Azure SQL, and select Azure SQL as a service you want to create. And then you see we already have a lot of examples already, but I just want to create a new database from scratch. So I will do add. And here you are presented with some questions that may be a little bit confusing at the beginning. So I will not go into all the flavor. You can have Azure SQL, but what you probably want to create is a single database. You just need a place where to store your data that is a little bit more powerful than just a text file or Excel or anything else that you could probably use in place of what I'm using right now, Azure SQL. But let's say you want to really have a solution that can scale the moment you need to have more coworkers working on it, or even maybe because you are creating a project that will be used by other people in your company, and you want to make sure that you use the proper tools. So let's say I want to create a SQL database. I want to create a single database. You have different options here. If you click on show details, it will explain a little bit to you what are these options. But what I really want to do is single database. So let's go on create. And then here, of course, you will select the subscription. And then the first question is the resource group. A resource group is nothing more than a way to group resources together so that all the resources related to a specific project, for example, can be handled as a whole. So I'm going to create a resource group DM, like my first letter of name and surname. And then that will be the data platform discovery day in US. And I think I already have one, so I will create two. I already created everything as a backup just to make sure that if something goes wrong during the demo, I can always show what I want to show. Yep.
Can you expand your screen just a little bit? Everything's kind of small.
Is that better?
That is a little bit better. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I think I still have to go and create. So DM data platform discovery day US 2. And then I want to create a database name here. So let's say, since I'm doing a lot of homeschooling with my kids, let's say I want to help, just to take an example, I want to help teachers to keep track of who is attending to what class. And so as a teacher, I want to create an application that my student can download and run on their phone or tablets and mark which session, which class they attended so that I can have an understanding of who is attending to what, how many times per day, and so on. So let's call it class management. That's my database name. And it asks me a server. Now, a server is another logical artifact here that helps us to keep together different databases in case we need more than to work with more than one database in our solution or in our project, or maybe even for different projects. But it's very common to have all the database that we work with in a dedicated server. So I just go on and create a server here. DM, and I can just use the same name I used before, DM data platform discovery day US 2. And then here I need to specify a login that I will be using to connect to any of the database that exists in this server. So let me just do DM admin, for example. Let's put a strong enough password. And where I want to have my resource created, ESTS2 is perfect. So I've specified my resource group, the database name, the server. I don't want to use Elastic Pools. It's kind of an advanced feature. I just want to make sure that I select the correct database for my need without spending too much money. So general purpose, hyperscale, and business critical are kind of, I would say, higher level tiers that are typically used for business purposes. There is a couple of tiers that are, let's say, more cost friendly. One is basic. As you can see, it's really, really cheap, like $5 per month. You can have up to 2 gigabytes of database, which is probably more than enough for what we want to do or for running your website. But let's say I want to do a little bit more, just because maybe 2 gigabytes I feel is way too kind of tiny. So I will go with the standard, and I go with S0 or 10 DTUs. DTUs is a way to measure the power I have at my hand when using this level of service. I will take the smallest one, And even in the smallest one, I can have up to 250 gigabytes, which is probably more than enough for storing all my information on who attended to which class. And that's going to cost me 15 USD per month. So I would say that's enough, and that's more than enough for what I need. So I will click on apply. Then it will ask me about networking. Of course, I want this Azure SQL, this database, to be reachable from an external service. So I will go and select public endpoint. And then, yes, I want to have other Azure services being able to connect to this database without asking me to do any kind of detailed configuration. And I want to also add my IP address so that I can connect to my database, administer it, and do my administrative or development work. I don't want to use any backup that I already have or a sample. I just go with a blank database. Here we can just go with the default option. And let's move to the tags. Tags are used if you have a lot of database to administer and you want to make sure that you exactly understand which database belongs to whom or what project, so that you can have a better kind of insight when understanding who is costing you the most. But then that's it. So those are all optional, and that's the place where I have the kind of review, so I can just go on and create. Now this will start creating all my resources, the server, the resource group, and the database. And it will take some minutes, couple usually. Here I can see the resource deployment progress. But in the meantime, what we can do while we wait for the database to be deployed. Yes.
Davide, while that deployment is underway, we have had another request for you to zoom your screen a little bit. It's really hard to read, especially if you're on a laptop.
Okay, let's see if this is better.
That looks really good to me.
Okay, nice. Okay, so what I'm just now looking here, and let me zoom also this, we said 25. Okay, so let's search for Azure Data Studio. So Azure Data Studio, and I'm using in private, I'm not using any personalized recommendations. So this is the first link you will find using Bing, but I guess Google or DuckDuckGo will be the same. You just go and click on download and install Azure Studio. First of all, as you can see, it supports all the possible operating systems. So no matter if you are using macOS or Windows or even Linux, you can install it and be ready to go. And plus, I just want to highlight here that in Quick Start, you have Connect and Query Azure SQL Database, so that even if you need some help, there is a nice Quick Start that will drive through all the steps you need to do in order to connect to Azure SQL. We will do this together, but just in case you need as a future reference. And so of course, I already have done it. So let me just open my Azure Data Studio, and you will probably see something different right now because the latest version that has been released a couple of days ago kind of revamped a little bit the interface. So it's very nice. It's much more kind of cool, I would say, right now. But still, it's the same. What you have to do is, the first time, create the connection. Also, let me make sure that this is big enough. Okay, so create a connection. And here we need to provide some information. Now it's probably now time to go back and take a look at, yes, my resource has been completed. My resource deployment has been completed. So I can go to the resource, and you will see that now I have a database called class management in the server name DM DPDD US. Not probably the best name overall, but that's it. So what I need to specify is the server name here, and then the kind of authentication I'm using. I'm going for the easiest one. So let's just use SQL login. As you can see, you have other ways to authenticate, but let's just go with SQL login. And sorry, that's the admin. That's the user I created, and then my password. Let's remember the password, and then I can use the drop down to see the database I have access to. Now, just because I'm using the Microsoft VPN, it will detect another IP. That shouldn't happen in your case. So I will just go on, and Data Studio will help me actually to have Azure SQL configured correctly so it can securely allow me to access it. So it automatically detects my IP, and I just have to allow my IP to connect to Azure SQL. So it will just take a couple of seconds, and after that, I can see my list, the list of my database. Come on. And then, well, if I should be able to see it. Otherwise, I will just type my database name here, which is class management. So if for some reason the drop list doesn't get loaded, you can just specify the database name here and do connect. I think, okay. Oh, I think I misspelled mine. It was DM admin, and maybe that's why. Okay. Okay, perfect. I probably typed the password properly. And now I'm connected to Azure SQL. Now it will load some information on the system, mainly the pricing tier and the edition and any tables I may already have in my database. Now my database is completely empty. So what I want to do is create a new query and start to create my table. Now, if you're completely new to the idea of databases, let's just do what probably you would have done in Azure in Excel. So let's say I need to manage my class. So what I probably have is my student email, and then I will probably have the class name, the student attended to, when he attended to it, and then some comments, let's say. So this could be my table. And now let me say that I attended some class. My email will be info@davidemauri.it. I attended to the Python basic class when on the 27th of April, and so far I have no comments. I just create my table, and I'm happy with that. So from there on, I can just manage my data by adding data to it and so on, right? That's probably you are used to that, so doesn't really need a lot of explanation. Now, I can do the same in Azure SQL. So the only thing is that is different is how you actually create your table, and let me show how you can do that. So first of all, we will create a schema. A schema is basically a way to group objects together. So I will create a schema called activity, and then I will create my table, and let me remove this for a second. I will create my table, naming the simple class register, and I will put it in this container called activity. That's it. Now, before doing it, you may be wondering or asking, is that enough? Is that everything I need to do? Actually, no. If I do that, I will have some problem, because let's go back to Excel, and let's say that I have another person here. Let's call it John Doe, and he attended to Python Basics 2 on the same day. Now, let's say that for some reason, someone, John Doe called me at some point and asked me to add some comments. So if I really want to understand to which of the class he took, let's say he took additional classes, let's say he took also another Python basic on another day. If we want to understand to which class he really want to add some comments, I need to ask him, yes, of course, the email, the class name, and when he attended, so I can really say, hey, this is the class, this was super cool. Now, of course, you can imagine that every time asking all this information, like who you are, which class, which day, and of course, it may be even more if you have a lot of information stored in your Excel file is not really super comfortable. So you may just ask, oh, which is the row you want to update? If John Doe can see exactly the Excel I'm seeing, and he may say 4, right? Now, that is nice because I can immediately locate my row, but the problem is that if I have something slightly different, let's say I have also attended to another class, the 4 for him will be something different for me, because for him, the 4 will be John Doe, and for me, since I have a new row, it will be something else. So there will be a conflict. So that's why you probably want to have a unique way to identify your rows. And this unique way could be an ID. So an ID, you say, okay, this is the row that I call 1, this is the row that I call 2, and this is the row I call 3 and 4, and so forth. So this means that if someone insert a new row, no matter where it is, I will call this row 5, and no matter the ordering or when that row was inserted, and let's say this is SQL Advanced, that row will always be the 5th. So no matter who see my data and how they are ordering the data and how they are seeing this data, if they refer to the row ID 5, I always know that this is the row ID 5 for everyone. Of course, I need to make sure that no one can update this, or just one person, and then replicate the data around or share the data around. But that's why we, in Azure SQL, especially because Azure SQL cannot see these values that I have here in Excel. That's why in the database, I need to usually to create a row and call that row the primary key, which means the way everyone can easily identify a row among all others. So I need to create that key to make sure that it will be easy for my Power App application to identify a row and make sure that if I do a change, it will exactly apply on the row I selected. So we'll move forward and do that. I will create a new object, a new column specifically called registry ID. That is an integer. Identity means the number will be generated for me automatically, and primary key means this is the primary way for me to find things in my table. And of course, this is mandatory. And then I created the student email, the class name, attended on, and comments, all with the related data type. And varchar is basically a string. Date time, I guess you know, you can already guess that it's just date and time. And again, and varchar 1000 is just a bigger string here. So let me go on and create this table. And right now we are almost done, because now I have my table. I can do select star, so select everything from activity dot simple register class, and of course now it's empty. Now let me insert some data here. And now if I select this again, I will be able to see my data. Perfect, nice. Now, what I want to do is make sure that people doesn't have to use, especially students, you know, or people that are, if I'm developing things for my coworker, especially for people that cannot have access to a desktop and maybe are just using the phone or the tablet. I just want to make sure that they are able to access the data and make any change or any addition they want. So also, what I want to do and want to make sure is that, of course, I could leave to the users the ability to write the class name, but probably what would happen is that everyone will put a slightly different name. So I want to make sure that my class name in the application will be picked from a list that I provide. And this, again, is something similar to probably what you have already done in Excel by changing a cell so that it only allows a selection of values. So to do that, I need to create a new table that will contain all the classes I want to expose or I want to support in this application, and then I just insert my classes. So again, I created my table with this ID, the primary key, as I explained before, and then the class name, and I just add the duration, even if probably we are not going to use it. And now I can also, again, select from my classes, and I can see here that all the data is available. Now, the problem is, how do I put this thing together and create an application? So to do that, yes, of course, you can code, but another amazing way to do that is to use something called Power Apps. So you go to make.powerapps.com, and let me also be sure that this is zoomed enough. And let's see which kind of account automatically detects. Otherwise, I have to log out and log in. This is okay. Let's move to 125, and I guess this is using, yes, the Microsoft account. So let me just log out. There's so much stuff inside here that it will be confusing. So I will just sign out from my Microsoft account. I don't need it anymore. Actually, I can even close the portal here, and I will just log in with my personal account, where basically there is nothing. Next. And also power-ups are something you can start to use for free, or if you are work for a company, you basically, it's very likely that they are already included in a Microsoft 365 subscription. It was called before Office 365 subscription, but also here, if you look for power-ups, oh, not power-ups, power-ups. Here you go. You have, you have PI hole to avoid all the advertising. So that's why it was not working the link before. But here you have the power-ups website. You can even start for free. Of course, there will be some limitation, but you can use it for free. If you want to use Azure SQL with power-ups, then you need to buy the power-up subscription. But again, it's very likely that if you are in a company, it's already included in the Office subscription you already have. So let me go back to power-ups, and that's it. So this is my personal environment, is much more cleaner. Now, what I want to do, and power-ups is basically a tool that allows you to create application that you can deploy on the phones and on tablets, or even create portals without coding, or the very minimal amount of coding. So as you can see, you can create a portal, you can create what is called a canvas, which basically is something that will work on a tablet, on a phone, or you can start from a model. Now, what we really want to do is use Azure SQL. Now, problem is there is no Azure SQL mentioned anywhere. Now, the trick is to keep in mind that Azure SQL is actually this guy here, SQL Server. SQL Server is kind of the brother that has been around for a while, and it's the server that works on premises. Azure SQL is the version of this product in the cloud. So every time you read SQL Server, you can 99% of the time also do what you're doing with Azure SQL. So in this case, I'm going to say, okay, I already have my data. So I want to start from my data. I click on SQL Server. And again, it will ask me the database it needs to connect to, login and password. Because it needs to connect to the database itself to see what tables are available, and then, of course, to interact with that table. So I already have created, as you can see, some connection, just to make sure, again, that I have then enabled in case something didn't work. But let me create a new one. So I create new connection, and then I go to SQL Server. And that 125? Nope. And then here I select again SQL authentication. Now I'm not doing something really following the best practice, because I'm using the user that has been created when I created my my database. Normally you shouldn't do that, because it's a very powerful user. So you should not use that user to access your data. But for the sake of simplicity right now, let's not dive into the permission kind of discussion. Just make sure that if we have enough time at the end, I will create even a new user and I'll show you how you can do that. But basically, it boils down to do something like create user from here, and then providing a login and a password. Or if you have someone that can help you, it's even better if you integrate your authentication with Azure. But that's kind of a bigger discussion. So let's go here, and my server is named DM data platform discovery day us2.database.windows.net. This is the standard domain for databases living in the cloud for Azure SQL. My database name is class management. My username is, in this case, dmadmin, and that's my password here. Okay. Create. So what it will happen is that behind the scene, Power BI will connect to Azure SQL and will find all the available tables and will ask me which to use to create my application. So I will start with my simple class register. Connect. And now it will do some magic for me. Actually, it will create an entire application for me that immediately allows me to browse the data that is already available in the database, create a new item in my activity list, and just see what is available in the database. Okay, I don't want to show this again, and that's it. So the first time you will have some tips. This probably looks a little bit ugly, so let's make it a little bit better. This is my class registry. And if I now run this, I can just and play. This application is actually running. So if I go in my database, let's simulate that someone adds some data. And let me add, for example, let's say today. Now I can go and refresh here, and you will see a new item appear. Perfect. Now, of course, this is not really nice. I want to make it nicer. So I click here and make sure that the browse gallery is selected. And I can go to fields, edit, and say, okay, there is a body, there is a subtitle. Actually, maybe I don't need all this information to be displayed. I can go to layout and say, okay, title and subtitle is more than enough for what I want to do. And I want to have the class name as the title and as the subtitle, let's say, when I attended this class. Because imagine that this application will be used by student. So also the student needs to be, will only see the class they attended to. So I will be logged in, because every time I use Power Apps, I will be logged in. I will log in as my account, info@davidemauri.it, and then I will only see all my classes here. And of course, what I want to see is the title and when I attended the class, right? So the problem we have right now is and let me play this again, is that we are seeing classes for everyone. So let's say for this guy, this is John Doe. I should not be able to see information for John Doe, right? So what I want to do is making sure that security is in place. So what I want to add is a label, for example. And I have my label here. Let me put it just down below. Let me make some space for the label. And let's say that what I want to show in this table is the user who connects to the application. So I can go here in the text, and instead of saying text, I can say user, and this is a function that is available in Power App.email. So this will show, and as you can see, it immediately shows the value that is current for me. Will show my email. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. Maybe let's enter it. Nice. Now, what I want to do is, and this is the difficult part, at least for those who are never coded before, but there is a very little amount of code needed. Because even if the application is basically already done for me, here I can see that is actually some code. And let's take a look at what this code is doing. So this code is saying, to fill the browse list, what I want the application to display is the content of the simple class registry, so the table I connected to, but actually I want to allow the user to be able to search within that table, and I want only the result to be displayed. So if the user type anything in the text search box 1, which is exactly this, I want to take that information and use it to filter my data. So for example, if I run this and I type here query, SQL, I just want to have SQL filter, and that's already working. And it's working because if I go back to the code, it's saying take all the content of the table, filter it by what is written in the search box, and the result of the search should be used as an output to populate the list. And also make sure that you want the list to be sorted by class name. Actually, I don't want class name. I want attended on, which is the column that contains the data in which my student went to a class. So I will take all the rows that came out from the search, if a search has been done. I will order them by attended on, and that could be descending or ascending, depending on if the user clicked on the ordering button. And the result will be displayed as my list. That's what this code is doing. Now, what we want to do is filter to make sure, and actually let me remove this. What we want to do is to filter the list to make sure that only the classes that I attended to will be visible to me. So what I need to do is filter my table, and right now I'm just copy and pasting because it will be faster. So let me go here. Actually, let me type it probably. I have to filter my table, and I want to filter my table with what? With this is called predicate. I want to filter the table so that the column that contains the student name, the student email, is equal to what it is written in the label down here, in the label 1 that I created before. So it must be equal to label 1.text. That's it. So just imagine like boxes within boxes within boxes. So in the first box, I just have all my table, all the rows in my table. And then I have a smaller box that contains only the rows where the student email is equal to the student email that logged in my application. And then I take the rows inside this smaller box and I apply another filter depending on the search clause that someone may have written in the text search box 1. And then I have probably equal or a smaller box containing rows. That rows will be sorted, and then the output will be sent to the grid, to the list. And as you can see right now, I can see only the classes I attended to. So one problem is solved. And so this is starting to work. Now, what I want to do is make sure that if someone, let's say my student every day go to some classes, hopefully, and they have to log that, so, or log the homework that they did. So my student will click on plus and they have to fill these values when they attended, which class, if they have in comment, and the student email. So first of all, student email should not something that they should enter manually, because otherwise they can maybe enter the wrong email or play tricks with with friends. So what I want to do here is make sure that the student email is disabled, and as you can see, I switch it to the edit screen. Now, this tree allow me to navigate my application. So the application is the entire application. The browse screen is the screen that is presented to me when I first log in and browse the class that I attended to. The detail screen is the screen that is presented to me when I click on a specific class. And then the edit screen is what is presented to me when I click on plus or the little pencil icon. So student email is not something that must be editable. So I can go here, and also maybe I also want to rearrange my fields. So I select the edit form, make sure that the whole rectangle is selected, click on edit field, and I say, okay, the student mail is probably the second one, the comments will be the last one, and attended on after the class. That's perfect. That's exactly how I want it to look. Comment is a text, but I want to be a multi-line. So I also want to give some more space. Perfect. Very nice. And the student email is not something I want to be editable. So I can just go here and say view text. And that would be, oh, sorry, I did it wrong. For the comment, not for, okay, so let me go back here. Oh, select this, edit fields, go to the student email and say view text. Perfect, that's what I want to happen basically. Then what I want to do also, and especially if this is something that the user will used to add a new class they attended to, and let's see what happened right now. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to the application and run this here. So I can select my application, I can select my class, I can select the pencil, and now you can see it is not editable. I can put comments and say super nice. And if I save this, you will automatically end up in my, let me go here, in my database. Here you go, super nice. So we just created an application that is connected with my backend database. And I just modified an existing row. And I can see now the result as, let's say I'm the teacher right now, and I have access to the whole data. I can see what my students are tracking daily on a daily basis. Now the problem is that now we want them to also add more stuff and make sure that they don't, write classes that does not exist here. So what I can do is go back to my power-ups. And of course, I need to change the way my edit form is presented to my student, because here I don't want to have a text. I want to have something else. So I need to, again, select the whole region, go to edit fields, and make sure that for the class name, I don't have the edit text, but I have allowed values. So allowed values means I have a Dropbox. Now, all I have to do is specify what are the allowed values. So I can go here and select specifically the combo, the drop-down box. And as you can see, I'm selecting not the entire small rectangle, but the specific data box, drop-down box inside it. And here, a lot of stuff are kind of grayed out. So I need to go to advanced, unlock to change properties. Now I can go back to properties and make sure here I select depends on, and what I want to do is say, hey, I want to populate this drop-down list with values coming from another table. So I need to add a new data source. The data source will use exactly the database I used before. So my DM, DPDD US 2. The difference is that it will use the classes table. So let's take activity classes, connect. And as soon as it will be done, that's perfect. That's all I need to do. So my items will be taken from the class name, which is exactly, as you see, the column in my table. And so I expect that the only option that will be available to be chosen from will be those, the class name, Python, Basic, C#, and so on. Now there is a little error here. Let's see, edit the formula in the bar, and first to have an explanation if you want here. It says, hey, there is something that is not working. The name isn't valid. Identifier isn't recognized. This means that he doesn't know what this value is. Because now, since there is no text to type, what I actually have as a result is already the content of the drop-down list. And the content is exactly the class name. That's it. So the only thing you have to change is to make sure that the result of the selection is the name of the selected class. That's it. And probably, okay, let's, if we have, I don't think we have enough time, so let's leave this as it is. There are other kind of improvement you can do, like automatically specify here. And actually, let me do that, it's pretty quick. Let's say that I want to automatically select the current day. So let me show what happens if I just try to create a new register activity. As you can see, it's some null dates, some known dates, like the beginning of time for what concern my application. But here it's working nicely, right? So I have my combo box field. What is missing is an automatic value for today and then the student email. So let's fix this. It will be very quick, and we will use exactly the same technique in both cases. So for the student email, if I go to the advanced, unlock to change properties, I see that the default value here is basically what is contained in this box that represents my the row, the data I'm seeing. But if there is a new row, there is no email inserted. So I need to specify the default value. So what I want to put here is, for example, my email, the user email. So I can put user.email. Perfect. And so perfect, much better now. And also what I want to do is fix this. And in this case, again, I need to unlock this, and I don't want to have the default here. I want to say that the date is now. Now the problem is that this window will be used both for editing and inserting. Now, when inserting, it's okay to put now because I don't have any date. But when editing, I should not always put the current date, because if I'm editing a session done 3 days ago, I want to overwrite that value with the current date. So what I want to keep is the date if it exists. If it doesn't exist, I want to put now. So to do that, there is a command called collage that says if the, so that was, is the, what is contained in the value at the moment is empty, then use now. So put the current date. Otherwise, take whatever it is inside. And that should do the trick. So if I now go back and play, now this is the 27. If I go here and click edit, this is still the 27th. Perfect. If I just add, this is today. Perfect. And I can say that today I took database design and it was amazing. Of course, you can apply the same logic to the hours, but now to automatically show the current hour. So for me right now is 3 p.m. So here you go, and we're good. Oh, I forgot the student email. Yep, so we need to fix something, because if I go, oops, here in the edit screen, and this is complaining a little bit because there was an error submitting the form. Here, what I have to do is basically the same I did before. So use a collage, and then pass parent.default or the user email. Oh. And that should be it. Yes, so actually probably I should have not chosen the view. Actually, that's where the error is. So here what I've chosen, and I forgot to do it right now, is not okay, let's just remove this and add back the email. It's easier to just here. Okay. So I still want this to be non-editable, but it must be something that can pass data to my database. So the only thing I want to do here is to make sure that this guy is, let's close this, is disabled. So let me go here and select this. Where is that? There should be default reset, design mode. No, that's not this. Is disabled. Where I can find them. Oh, here. More option. And display mode. This must be disabled. Okay, that's fine. So it's still something that can, hold data and send it to the database, but it's not something that the user can change. So that's basically it. Then everything as we did before still apply, the collage. So you will show the current user or the user saved in the database. But that's it. Actually, so the application is basically done. Now, of course, you can spend more time to improve it, but as you can see right now, the moment, oh, actually, let me do that. Let me add a new class, for example, and then we can close this session. Let me add a new class. Let's say that you want to do also Ruby basics. Okay, that's good. The moment you do this will be automatically available here. So if I do plus, and now I have Ruby basics. So as you can see, I can really create a simple application, and to share this, my students just have to download the Power App tool on their phone. Here I will go and save my application, and then all you have to do is share. That's it. Save, it will save my application, and as you can see, I already saved a bunch. And once it's ready, you can share your application. Yes, come on. And once it's ready to share, you will get a link, or you can even give permission to users to access the application so that they can use it. So this is, of course, just a kind of an overview of what you can do. But this gives you the idea that you can easily create an application that is deployed on phones or tablets that connect to Azure, and use even advanced tool like Azure SQL to do whatever you want to do, to scale, to provide some support to your coworkers, to enter data, to browse data. You can really do a lot. Okay, I think so I'm done.
You are at time. So what I have for you is a lot of people just really want to watch this again in a recording. You threw a lot of information at them, and you did a good job of presenting something that's really complex to some people that are beginners. So I really appreciate that. We did have a question that asked if a person wanted to create an app for themselves that connected back to their personal data, could they use Power Apps? Perhaps one might want to use it to gather data for, say, genealogy, to just do simple tracking.
In that case, we'll probably be completely free. Because if you just want to write to an Excel file on your OneDrive, that is free.
Nice.
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm going to take presenter from you really quickly.
Yep.
So I can. Oops. Okay, so feedback. We really want your feedback on today. So if you could go to that bit.ly link. I don't know if Matt is going to send that out to you via email as well. Matt, if you're online, you might want to answer that. But they really want your feedback on today. And one of the questions on feedback is, would you be interested in doing this again? And I think the attendance that we've had, how many of you stayed online all day, I think that that tells us you guys are interested in doing this again. This was an absolutely amazing day. If you have Matt Gordon's email address or his Twitter, he is SQL@speed, I believe. Tweet him out or email him a thank you. He and Stuart Moore put this together with less than 30 days from concept to going on the air. So since he won't brag about himself, I will brag for him. I'm really proud of the job that he's done. So Anthony, if you are online, I will let you go ahead and end the webinar for everybody as we go. And but if anybody has any questions, feel free to pop those into the box until we get cut off.
Well, I just rolled in, so do you want me to hang tight for a second, or go ahead and kill it?
You can kill it. So just click the X and then you end webinar for all, and it will boot everybody, and it'll start all the stuff for Grant.
Yep. Cool. All right, team. Well, thank you so much.